Hello. Yeah. Hi, Pythonians. Welcome to yet another video on Python. How you all doing? I hope you all doing fine. Just to keep the flow succinct, we are in the world of intuitive Python for you course, and we have just begun the module 2 and part 1 video of it. As usual, we will start with a question. I would like to request you to make a Python analogy with any another general thing and type it the same in the comment section so that I could see your talent and further add in our YouTube videos. Your inputs are very much useful and needful for our continuous improvements like a continuous integration and development that belongs to DevOps or MLOps. Okay, now time to look into my Python and spoken English analogy. So, let us understand how a spoken English built from fundamental blocks such as letters till higher level such as articles. So basically letters are fundamental blocks of English. Example A, B, C, D, E, F and so on and till Z. So the combination of these letters are words. So which are predefined. So which can communicate specific meaning, such as some examples are code, run, build, develop. Now, when you use these words in combination, following the grammatical rules, in programming language we call it a syntax. So here grammatical rules that were written in English. So that's what communicates a specific meaning with a specific context. So example here is I love Python. I hope you to do. Now let's move a bit a higher side. When you use all these sentences together, then that's what make a paragraph. So basically which conveys a message and so example, I fell in love with Python at my first sight. So it conveys a message and then context. So finally, if you put all paragraphs together, what we get is an article, or say in paragraph or page, when you put all pages together, what you get is a book or an article. So using this you can write novels, stories, blogs or textbooks, etc. So it got plenty of application. You can use all these fundamental tools of spoken English to write a lot of applications. That application may be a good story or a blog or a book, a novel or historical book or a textbook for the students, anything. So now similarly object object is the fundamental building block to write a Python program or application. So now object, basically I am referring string list int float class These are class come object. When you use that class, and then only you can generate objects. So, but these are the fundamental or core Python objects, class come object. So these are the fundamental blocks of Python, similar to the letters of spoken English. And an expression is what an expression is made with objects and a reference variable when with some proper syntax. When all these elements come together, that's what actually generates an object. So similar to the word which has a specific predefined meaning, similarly an expression which has a specific predefined syntax, when you use this, it generates an object. And when you bring expressions and keywords together in purview of syntax rules, what comes out is statement. So this sets the proper context and makes some logical work. So now we are moving into higher side of programming. So now when we write all these statements together in a file, in a file what comes out is called a module. It is like a page. It's equivalent to page. A page will have a set of lines. A page will have a set of lines. Similarly, a module will have a set of statements. Similarly, a page can be kept somewhere, and you can read it later, and you can read it after some time. Similarly, a module can be stored in somewhere else, and you can use it after some time. You can call that module, and you can use whatever functions you have written in that module after some time. So that's how it is similar to your spoken English and then your programming language. So now, finally, when you put all these different module files together, what we get is called a program or application. So it is used to do some higher level specific tasks to ease of the load from human brains. So it's a collection of .py files like a book. A book consists of a plenty of a number of pages. Similarly, a program consists of a different number of modules together. We will see a practical example after some time, but for now this is what we have to understand, and this is how a similarity between spoken English and then programming language of Python. So now we will look into those Python core data types or Python core objects. So these are similar to our building blocks of a spoken English. That's ABCDs. So now here we'll try to define new terminology. The first one is literals. Literals. The term literal. So you can see on left side you have object type, on right side you have example literals or creation. The term literal simply means an expression whose syntax generates an object. That's it. If you want to generate some type of object, it may be int or float, you have to give that kind of syntax, that kind of the predefined way. So then only you can generate that object. So that's the reason. So now what we are looking at here are some expressions, simply some expressions. On left side what we read is an object, on right side what we'll read is an expression. So for examples, numbers we have different type of objects. That's a int, float, and complex decimal and fraction. For int, you just give a reference variable that's x and is equals to 1 2 3. Just don't give anything, you just type 1 2 3 together, no decimal point and no quotation marks, no brackets, and what you get is an object of number. And so this literal generates an expression. This literal actually generates an int object. Similarly, we have other type of objects as string. For a string, you can use a single quotation mark or double quotation mark. If it is a raw string, you can use a different type of literal or different type of expression to generate a raw string. That also we will look into in our practical session. Now, so what we have is a list. For list, if you want to generate a list object, what you have to use is square brackets. And to generate dictionaries, what you have to use is curly braces. And for tuples, it is parenthesis. For files, we have to use a open. It's an inbuilt function open. This is called a file handler. When you use this file handler open inbuilt function, then only the system can understand there is I have to deal with a file. So that's the reason. So we have to use open function for that. And what we have is a sets. For sets, you have two ways of creating a set object. One is either using a set type function, or second one is using a using curly braces. And what else left is booleans, types, and none. Of course, booleans, types, none is also an object. So we have already discussed that everything in Python is an object. So now finally, even the functions and modules and classes, these are also fundamental object types, are fundamental data types. Everything, we will look into every aspect of these things in our overall Python intuitive Python course for you. And so, and finally, compile code and stack trace paths. These are also the fundamental data types of Python itself. So now let's actually jump into the practical side of our Python core data types. We will actually code with our own hands. It's hands-on. So now, so we have discussed theoretically that how do you generate an object using a literal or an expression. So here the first core data type we are going to generate is an int object generation. You can clearly see it. For example, we'll take a absolutely completely practical examples that we see in our real life. So that's the difference of my course with the other course. So now let's take an example, maybe from my home to the office. The distance in kilometer, the distance in kilometer is a reference variable. It is 1234. That's 1234 kilometers. My home, my hometown, and the office. So now, so it is, I gave the expression, the literal 1234, no decimals, no brackets, no quotation marks, nothing. So let's see what we'll get. So now when I executed this distance in kilometer variable, I got 1234. Now we'll see what kind of class or object it is. So it's an int. That's what I'm saying. So we are generating an object. So our expression or literal that generates an object. So here we are generating int object. So this is the difference between other programming language and Python language. There is a difference. So there you have to declare this is what, this is this is this. But here no declaration, It's clearly the expression or the literal what generates an object. Please note this point. The literal or an expression that generates the point. So we have defined various literals or expressions for various objects. Now we will do hands-on for the same. And so now the second thing what we'll do is float object generation. So here we'll take some float area in square meters or square kilometers around you. You want to build some house, and it's a 3.1415 square meters or square kilometers. Take the whatever unit you want. So when I executed this, type of that object or class is float. And similarly we will look into some complex object. It's a complex, the object name itself is a complex that we have seen. For that, what we'll take, the example we will take is position in 2D space. For example, your position, you're on this, you're in a room and you want to mention your position. In that case we'll use 3 plus 4g. It's a vector related position. So position in 2D space, that's is equals to 3 plus 4g. It's very much useful in data science. So when I executed this position in 2D space, this is what I got. Now we will see what is the type of it. See, complex. So now what literal or expression that we have used, you just use 3 plus 4g, 4j, you use 3 plus 4j, and of course you can also use a float in it, 3.0 plus 4.0j, still you will get it. So what the sub object you have used there is not int, it is a float. And the second one we will look is string object generation. So now we have seen numerals till now. So thus far we have seen numerals, and now we will look into string object generation. So for example, the first one we'll take name, the Hare Krishna. Name itself is Hare Krishna. So when I execute the name, what I got is Hare Krishna, literal Hare Krishna object. But to make your Python understand this is a string, what you have to do is you have to use either a single quote or double quote or triple quote. So in that case only the Python got to know this is this kind of object. Now let's see what kind of object is this. That's it. It's a string object. It's a string object. So similarly, we have bytecodes. So we have bytecodes. For bytecode, we have to specifically use B and then put remaining whatever code you want to write in quotation marks. So type of this bytecode is bytes. And now the fifth one we'll see is list generation. So in list generation, this is very widely used. The list generation is very widely used. And then so now what we will do here is we'll take some practical example that's till now what all degrees I have done. So that's what a variable or reference variable I want to consider. So my degrees list is my variable. So it's computer science and then masters in AI and cloud from Italy University, and then PhD in AI. Not yet done and I want to do. Okay. So this is what my degrees are. So now when I execute, when I call my degrees list, obviously it shows whatever degrees I have done thus far. So now I think everybody is excited to know what type of variable this is, what type of object it is. So it's list. You can clearly see it is list. And then the second one what we want to look is dictionary object generation. So this is also one more most important. This is a mapping type of data variable or data type. So here, for example, it's a mapping. So I want to map some aspect. So my channel details. This is the what I want to map. So my channel name is Imlike, and then it is Institute Machine Learning and Artificial Intelligence with me. And then content. What type of content I basically write or stream. So it is all about the data. So that's why I call it, it's a content is data universe. It's everything. It's all about data. I talk about big data. I talk about DevOps. I talk about MLOps. I talk about data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning. It's all about data. So that's why I call it data universe. So now when I execute it and when I see what type of object it is, obviously what I got is or dict. What I got is dict. So that's what I'm saying. So these are all literal. So these are the fundamentals of Python. If you master it, you can master the Python easily, because you should know the fundamentals of the Python first. So when you use a curly braces with this specific type of syntax, what you got is a dictionary object. So now we will see another one, the most important, tuple object generation. So here basically uh, some password list which you don't want to change or which you don't want to be changed. In that case, you'll use this tuple. So my passwords list I put. So these are some of the password that I use. Of course, this looks scary, but that's how I use it. So now when I execute this, I got tuple. For this tuple, what you used is a curly braces and then strings in it. So of course you can use many other many other types of objects also, sub objects also you can use inside, that we'll see, that will look later. But for now we'll just look into the what type of object it is. It's tuple. So what you have to focus here is how to write a tuple, or simply what's the literal or expression to generate a certain type of an object. That's what our focus point here. So now the next thing is file object generation. I have already told you that we use a open inbuilt function. Open is an inbuilt function to generate a file. Yes, so it's called a file handler. So when you use this open inbuilt function, then only you can deal with a file. So here you can see I have I'm just here the expression I have used is my file reference variable. This we can call it as a file handler, because after that if you want to add something, if you want to delete remove something, if you want to read that file, for everything you have to use the same name. So that's why it's called a file handler. So when I call open function and the file name that I use this file.txt. So I have this file in my repository, the current repository I will show, and I gave a mode as a read. So read mode I gave. So now when I execute this, what I got, the type is, it's a input output text input output wrapper. So that's what it is. It's to deal with the file. We will look into the file, how to add something inside the file and remove from the file, everything practically. But for now you just try to understand the point of uh, how a literal or expression generates the fundamental objects or core data type. So now the second one is set object generation. So the second one is set object generation. So here you can see simple set I have taken, that's ABC. When I execute and when I check the type of set, it's a set. That's what I'm saying. And other some core types what we have is booleans. I have told true and false. True and false are other type. We'll just check the type of true, what it is. It's a boolean. That's what I'm saying. Each and everything in Python is an object. Just remember, Just remember, that's it. So now, similarly, we look for the false, and false itself is an object, but you have to write it properly. The true or false starts with the capital letter and ends and goes with lower letters, lower case, and then ends with the lower case. And then and type. I have one more thing. The type, till now we have used type again and again and again. So now the type itself is an object. That's what you have to remember. Okay, type itself is an object. So type of type is a type. Type of type is an object. What object? It's a type object. And now none. Just remember this none. This will be very useful later as a placeholder. So we can use it. So x so is equals to none, and type of x is none type. And other program unit types, these are higher level program unit types. First one is what we'll look is functions. We'll write a simple function. Okay, now define, use the word keyword define, and then we write a function name, which function you want to use, you want to call later, the function name, and then here it's a parenthesis. So inside either you can include the parameters or not. So for now what we want to print is this is our first function. So I'll just execute it. Now we will call, we don't call, we'll just check type of function, what type of it is. It is function. So now we'll call the function. What we got is this is our first function. So that's what I'm saying. So you have to focus on how to write, or generate a core data type or core object. Because from where, see, you have to look into the Python is in a completely different perspective, not like other courses teach. You learn this, you learn first int float object, and then int float, and then go to strings. No, that's not the way. You have to look in a completely different way. You should understand what are the fundamental blocks. The fundamental building blocks of Python are object. On top of that, you use objects, you make an expression, you use or you keep this expression, you put this expression together with our keywords. What you get is a statement, and when you keep all statements together, what you get is a module, and when you have a module, what you write is a program or an application. That's how you have to look, that's how you have to learn. The same I'm doing, I'm telling you how an expression can generate a fundamental object or core data type, from where we will move into the other aspects slowly. So for now you just focus on this, just focus on this, and you just follow me, just follow me blindly. That's it. I will give you the complete knowledge of Python. I will make you an expert if you follow properly. So the next thing what we will look is a module. See, initially I'm telling you how do you make a module object. So what I will do is here I'm I told you module is a file. Like in English, it's a page. Here it is a file. So what I did, I have opened one file. I saved that file name as capital M module1.py. That's a module one. The file name is module1 dot with py extension, because it can understand it's a Python file. So now this is module1.py. That's a Python file. Inside that file, I have written one expression, that is function, and then parenthesis and one keyword. It has become a statement, and then I have written a print statement. I have written two statements. When I write, each statement is written from expression and then keyword. So finally what I make is an object. So when I write two statements, what comes out is an object, is a module. So here, So my module name is module1.py, and I am saving this as a module1.py. So now we will call this module1 and we will check what is the type of it. So for that, so create a, now I will import. So how do you call a module? Because this is at a different location. It's somewhere. I have, of course, I have made this module. I have created this module in my. I have created this module in the root in root directory where my files are there. See here. This is the module one. Capital MODULE module 1. So I will import that module 1. You'll see the magic. And then I'll check what all, I'll check the namespace. We call it namespace. I'll check what all it is there inside it. These double underscores are private ones, which these are inbuilt and private ones. We don't need to much bother about. But what we see is a function. That's what the function we have written in our module, right? So now if I want to call that function, obviously I have to use a reference now, because so module 1 is the file name. In that file name you go there and find function object and execute it. So that's what I did. I will execute. So what we got is, this is my first method in module named module1. That's what we have written actually in this module. See, this is my first method in module. So that's how we actually write a module. So now we have seen as a level wise, from object, expression, and even entered into a statement, and now a module, and finally the bigger one, the bigger than bigger, and bigger than everything, that is classes. Now thus far we know fundamental objects, or what we call it as core data types. But these are all, of course, generated by somebody. These are made by somebody. So these were made by Python inventors, Python programmers who has written this Python application. Okay. Now, if you want to make your own objects, you want to create an object, you want to become a creator. In that case, the bigger object that we use to create another object is called class. What it is? Class. So now, for example, you don't need to much bother about what I have written and how it is written. You just look into it. So how we will able to generate a new object. That's it. So of course we are all living beings. Before a human, we'll take some living classes in this earth. Okay, there are a lot of classifications we can do. So living beings. So living beings can be further classified. So before living beings, we will have some other classification like table and all. These are non-living beings. Table, house, and some other aspect. These are non-living beings. When it comes to living beings, there are different classes in it. Human, animals, and other stuff. All bacteria. So these are all classification of living beings. So that's why I have taken one classification or one category. I have named it as a living beings. Okay. So now normally a living being, it should have a, if you say human will have some shape, this many legs, this many hands, eyes. So this is how you construct a human being, right? That's how, for example, in Hinduism we believe Brahma constructed. He has made a class. The Brahma made some classification, and for each class he has built a different type of constructor to make objects. We are actually objects and human is a class. So in this case, I will make that constructor. So I put head, legs, hands, tail, height, weight. So that's how a human being will definitely have a leg, hand, tail, height, weight. Of course, a living being will have these. So that's how I have constructed, and these are the attributes I have given. And I have given one what we call the method or behavior, because see, every object will have a human will have some attributes and then behavior. So I gave a behavior to it, that's a run. So now let's execute this class and we'll see what magic will happen. So this is, first we'll check living beings is a class, it's a class object. We'll check what type of this thing is. So its type itself is a class, and then first what we will do is, so it's a main class, it's a living beings. And then first in living beings we'll create one object. We'll create one object, that's a human object we'll create. There is difference between a human and tiger, cat, and other living beings. So that's why for human object, human has one head, two legs, two hands, no tail. Tail, that's why I told you use none wisely. None, this will become default parameter. And then height is 6 feet, and weight is something 60 kg. Now we'll execute this. So we'll check type of human. This is type of human is part of living beings, and it's actually what we have created is an object. What we have created is an object, and this object is stored in this address. Now we'll check, we'll use some behavior from that object. So when I click human dot run, so what I got, human runs with two legs. So that's how, see. So with this we'll finish with the classes also. So of course we will classes is a bigger part of Python. I'll make 3 to 4 hours of big video with complete end-to-end practical examples. So you don't need to worry about that. I will explain very clearly in that. So and finally we have other compile code and stack tracebacks. So with this, I just want to summarize what we have discussed so far. So as the way you look into Python should be different. It the fundamental blocks for a Python is an object. So with this object, basically you will generate an object with using expression, and when you write an expression together with a keyword, what you get is a statements. When you keep statements together and save it as a one single file, what you get is a module. When you keep all modules in a common folder, in that case, it's like a book, equivalent to the book in spoken English. So what you get is an application. So now when you use an expression or literal, what you are generating is an object. But if you want to create your own class of objects, then in that case we have to use a classes. And when you use a class, you can actually create your own objects. So with this, I'm closing this session, and then I'll look forward to connect with you on another sessions, and keep watching and keep subscribing and enjoy the session. Thanks, and thanks a lot.